I want to introduce you to the law offices of Vincent W. Davis at 888-888-6582. They're advocates for the rights of parents, grandparents, and guardians in juvenile dependency courts. Losing a child to a DCFS CPS social worker based on an anonymous call, complaint, or your ex-spouse is not only horrific, but it's commonplace. Everyone will agree that there's nothing more valuable than one's child. You cannot afford to fight this alone. Call the law offices of Vincent W. Davis at 888-888-6582. Connect with an attorney today. That's 888-888-6582. Get your kids back.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Fight CPS with Sabrina, and I'll be your host for this evening. We don't have a guest for tonight, so I thought it would be good to go over just a couple of the basics again and a few things that people have been asking me to do. And before we get started, I do have a really cool announcement. One of our guests that was on one of my shows, she just announced that she was getting her kid back today. So I told her we would announce it, and when they get all settled, we're going to have them back. It's kind of rare for that to happen, which is so ridiculous to think, but the chances of people getting their kids back is just so wrong. They're supposed to be, setting families up together, and all their lies about, wanting to reunify with family members, and it's all a lie, as we all know. And as we all know, it really affects the kids. And what I've been seeing a lot lately is people getting involved with CPS for taking their child to a doctor or a hospital. I was just told by somebody that I'm friends with that they went through something pretty horrific. She had her baby healthy, everything was good. When the child started to change from liquids to solids, the kid wasn't keeping anything down. So she took the kid to the doctor. First, I think the hospital, and then the doctor, and they made her another appointment. And she woke up not feeling good, so missed the appointment, didn't go. Later that night, she's driving in the car with her husband and the baby and gets pulled over. She sees them following her. And they arrest dad for no reason at all. Didn't give her one anyways at that time. And told her that they're going to take the kid. And of course, like any mom, she reacted like, are you kidding? You're like, no, I'm not letting you take my child from me. I can't let you do that. I won't. So the police are there, ambulance are there, and they try a tactic with her saying, oh, well, we just need to see the kid and make sure that he's okay. We're going to give him right back to you. So don't worry, let us see the kid. And so she replies with, well, can I hold my child while you guys are doing this? Of course not, right? They wouldn't allow that to happen. And she asked over and over again, are you sure you're going to give him back to me? Like, I'm not just going to let you take him. And the officers, yep, of course, we're going to give him right back. So, of course, they take the kid into the ambulance, and boom, that was it. They were not handing that kid back at all. And when they did go to the doctor, there wasn't really anything major that they could see at the hospital or the doctor. So the child wasn't, badly sick at that point anyways. So, they're supposed to only take away kids if there's immediate danger. But where's the immediate danger there? There was no immediate danger. And so they took the child and arrested her ultimately because she refused and said, no, I'm not just going to give him to you. And if I don't just give him to you, what are you going to do? Arrest me? And okay, then let's do it. And they did, surprisingly. And so that is something I wanted to talk about is, these police officers really need some more education on all this. They just automatically back up the social workers because they're state workers. And a lot of the times even when they bring the police with them and paperwork, they will tell you that this is a warrant, that you need to give up your kid, that they're there to take the kid. And you really, really need to look into that and make sure that it actually is a real warrant from the judge saying that there's immediate danger and that they're removing the child. A lot of time they just show up because of somebody calling in, making a complaint, or, however the referral started. And it's really, the police don't know how this game works. They just follow the leader, basically. So I don't know what we need to do about this, but they really need to be educated, the police, because to arrest someone for not taking their child to a one missing doctor's appointment, that is just absurd. And I can't believe that in this day and age that we're still going through all this. I watched a video recently on YouTube. If you look up whistleblower for CPS, I was kind of surprised. Well, I guess not really, because even though the video is kind of old, it's like 8 years old, we're still going through the exact same thing right now. And there's a lot of like really good things he says in that video. If you guys want to check that out, I really liked it. And he just basically goes over that he was an investigative worker for CPS. And when he took the job, it was so that way he can help people and save kids. And, he went to college and had a bachelor's in communication and I forget what it's called. But, he was pretty qualified. And he said that was not at all what they were doing. They were not protecting families. They were lying and taking kids away. And like all the things he was saying, to still be going through the same thing nowadays, it's crazy. And even like when I first dealt with CPS, I was a child. I was in second grade. And I was called into the office at school, and they had me talk to a social worker who at the time I had no idea what a social worker was. And I didn't know at that time, but they had also interviewed my brother in a separate room. And he's like 2.5 years younger than me, so like kindergarten age, whatever. I'm not sure who called in, but I know a lot of my teachers talked about calling CPS and, getting us some help or whatever that meant, right? And so apparently we both had the exact same story, that my mom was hitting me and slamming my head into the bunk bed poles, and just, I could go on. It's like a really big list. And I was coming to school bruised up. And my brother and I gave the exact same story. And the social worker goes to my mom's house and tells her everything that we just said, even though the worker told us that it would be completely confidential. Nobody's going to know. We're not going to go tell your mom. And yes, they did. And not only that, but they left us there without doing anything at all. And around the same time, I had another friend who, she liked attention and doing bad things for attention. So she lied at school and said mom wasn't feeding her. And they immediately took her away. And it took her mom over a year to get her back. And they had no problems going on. Like, she was a little spoiled, but, it made me so angry even back then as a young kid that they're not going to help me, but they took away my friend who, is begging now to come home and telling everyone she lied because of how horrible foster care was for her. And, I'm just so saddened that, I'm in my 30s now, and it's the same way. It's the exact same way. They're not taking away kids that need to be taken away. They're taking away the kids that they can legally kidnap or legally sell, or however you want to put it. And it needs to stop. It really, really needs to stop. And I have been really racking my head and, researching the crap out of this and what we can do to change it. And even though it says, to start a rally or, go protest and make sure you vote and all that, it's not enough. It's not good enough. Like, something needs to happen sooner than that. And I've just been trying to think what we can do, to do that. And I had mentioned on another video that I think that it would be smart if we could get a video of like the children and what they've been going through and the real like world, what is happening, because people will people that don't know your case and don't know your situation. They don't know CPS. They're kind of ignorant to it. I was kind of too for a little bit, because they're really good at manipulating and lying to you. But I'm sorry. I'm so upset because I've received so many emails just this last week alone about all these people who are going through it. And I'm just so upset about it. Like, how you can pry a baby from its mother's arms over a positive marijuana test from when she first was pregnant and didn't even know it. That's just so screwed up. And yeah, Karen, it does need to stop. And if anybody out there wants to, give me any kind of advice, or, think, or what your thoughts are on this, us parents need to go to Washington, D.C. and tell our stories and get the law changed. Yeah, I agree. The only thing is that they've been doing that. They've been doing that, and nothing has changed. And why the state is not seeing like this as an emergency, I don't know. But the chances of your child being abused, neglected, raped is so much higher being in foster care than being at home with their parents. And it's just so amazing. One of the stories that the guy I was talking about, the whistleblower, he said there was one of his first cases, he went to the home, and foster parents, I believe, foster parents had like a Hummer and nice car and nice house because they're selling drugs. And they were having the children go number 2 on a certain spot of the floor where they were hiding their drugs. So it would make the dogs go a different direction. Like things like that is happening in foster care. It just makes me want to rip my head off. And I'm not saying they're all bad, because I do know a few really good ones. But the problem is when they are good, they end up not being a foster parent for long. And Karen, I see you said, then we need to all do a class action lawsuit. That's what I'm talking about. Something like that. You're right. And who we're going to take it up with, I don't really know, because it seems like everybody has, each other's backs in the courtroom, in the White House, everywhere. Like, they don't want to admit that this is happening because it's such a huge business. And, to tell social workers or the county or whatever, to some person who's not even, a mother or parents or have any kind of education in sociology or child development or anything like that, for them to be able to have so much power to take away our kids, that needs to change. It's just not okay. And, if you try to become a social worker, one of the things that this guy I was talking about said too, that another coworker that he had a music degree, and that's it. And when she came to be a social worker, you only have a 2-month training course. That's it. And then you're a social worker, and you have the power to do horrible things, and they do it. And it just makes me so sick. It really does. I cannot even believe that, from a child to now, that it's still the same way. It's just now more people are talking about it. And we definitely need to educate people, because the people who don't know what we're going through, they don't get it, and they look down upon us. And, even though you may know them, they could be your family, friends, whoever, they don't realize. And when they hear that you're in the system with CPS, they automatically assume that you're a horrible parent. And that's why I was saying, I really think it might be a good idea to get the kids' side of all this to take to the courts and to, show them, because how are you going to say that our kids are bad people or drug addicts or whatever? Like, how are you going to do that? It's, horrifying what they're doing to these kids and to us as well, like whole families in general. You shouldn't have to be terrified of sending your child to school. there's enough worries, sending your kid to school, but to have to worry that a social worker at any point in time can talk to your kids and without even having your consent, like, it's wrong. And I know that there's a couple of states that they just changed that where the parent can be notified. And that's why it's another really good idea to talk about this with your kids and teach them and explain to them that these people are not normal people. And even though they're going to try to be your best friend, they're far from it. And to teach our kids how to deal with social workers, because think about it, most people aren't going to do that because they think, why should I? I'm not doing anything wrong. Nothing bad is going to happen. And it does to anybody, anywhere, any, situation. There's CPS being involved. They are legally kidnapping our kids and for a profit. And for the Clinton Act, to let people get paid money for taking the kids away. Not only that, but if they have any kind of mental health conditions, they get paid per health condition. So if there's several of them, they get, extra money. And so what they will do is they will take your kids, no matter what situation it is, if you're in the system, they will take your kids to get an evaluation, mental and health. And, a lot of times people don't believe me when I say this, but ERs are kind of horrible when it comes to this. When a social worker takes a child into the hospital, they, sorry, I was getting sidetracked by the comments. You take your child into the hospital to get checked and looked at, and that's like, being a good parent. But if a social worker asks the hospital, like, hey, I need to clear this person so I can, take them to Orangewood, no matter what the situation is, they're just going to clear that person. And the same thing kind of goes if, you're in the law, like if you get arrested and let's say, you're not doing good, you can't breathe, whatever the situation is, they can't just take you into the jail. They have to get you medically cleared before they can do that. And it's the same thing. No matter what the issue is, the hospital is just going to back up whatever the police officer says. It's the same thing with kids with CPS. And it's outrageous. That's why they only really will let you go to their own doctors and their own psychiatrists, psychologists. They are not okay with you having your own private one. And why do you think? Well, because of this reason right here. Okay, let's see, Jessica. Most of the time our children are getting abused in foster homes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I think we really need to get the kids, like, even if we scramble their faces or voices or identities, we need to get like a huge video collage of all these kids and how horrible they, things that they've been going through. And the way that they place these kids is unbelievable. To take them out of their home and put them with another family that has nothing the same, not the same background, not the same religion, not the same, anything. And they feel really lost. And like, why would you place a child that's, born and raised super Christian in a family that's, Islamic or, Buddhist or whatever? And it makes them like way more confused than they already were in the first place. Okay, Jessica, my kids got taken because too many people kept calling CPS on me. I'm sorry to hear that. I can't stand that. I do get that a lot of people don't realize what CPS is and how they work. Some people really believe that they're doing the right thing by calling them, but not enough people are educated on this. And especially if they're trying to get back at you or they have some kind of reason, whatever it may be, it's ridiculous that they can just make a phone call to these people and ruin your entire life because of one allegation that they said. Okay, exactly, because the real abused children are harder to care for. Exactly. They don't want these kids that are, acting out and behavior issues. So the kids that do, which I can't even tell you how many actually do. I keep hearing it over and over again that, yeah, but the kid's really, out of control. My daughter's the same thing, like when she was growing up, because of this system. It makes them like have hatred towards us, whether they realize it or not, because of the way the workers manipulate the situations and what they're telling these kids. And saying, well, you're not at home because your mom messed up and she's not trying hard enough to get you back. And just horrible things like that. So when these kids do have, issues and they're acting out, they will take them to get a psych evaluation and have them put on these medications to calm them down, to, numb them up and make them quiet, basically. So that way they can continue to make their money and work the system and put our kids on these medications that really they've never been able to test medication on children. It's against the law, I believe, to test someone under the age of 18 for, medical testing and all that. So we're putting these kids on like Seroquel and, ADHD medications and all this to get them to be quiet. So that way they can, work their way through the system, just basically sell the kid. And then on top of that, they get all the bonuses for the mental health conditions. So it's really just such an ugly business, and how they can use our families for business is, it's just horrible. It really is. And, it's really hard to lose hope when you're going through all this. There's nothing worse than the pain of losing your child or having your child taken from you. And I understand there's a lot of people out there who do need to have their kids taken away, but most of the time that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing families who are like the nicest people that you would never believe, could be going through something like this. And it's really a huge deal, and more people need to be educated on what it means to call CPS. And, I remember on one of Miss G's shows, they were saying it's like opening Pandora's box. And it's true. It is so true. And, another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about that I keep hearing on a daily basis, okay? Do not give a dirty drug test, no matter what. And apparently the social workers are telling their clients not to worry. We know you're a drug addict. Once you test for us the first time, we're testing your levels. And as long as we see that your levels are going down, everything will be fine. Do not believe that, please. I'm hearing it literally every day. It is a lie. The second they get that first dirty drug test from you, that's it. And then once you go through your court hearing, they're going to be lying to you, telling you, oh yeah, as long as your levels are going down, and giving you false hope and false, everything. And then when you get to the end of the day and they're telling you we're taking your kid from you, you didn't give us enough clean tests in the time that we gave you. Well, the social worker told me, I just had to have my levels coming down. It is not the case. Do not fall for it. It's really difficult not to. I mean, with basically everything in this situation, it is really difficult not to, want to get emotional and tell these people off and, tell them where to go. And it's really horrible that, you can't be yourself. You can't show them any kind of emotion, or it makes you look like a horrible person. In what world am I a horrible person because I am crying because my kid is being taken? It's sick. It's sick in the head. And yes, they will destroy the whole family. And not only the main family, but they will contact your friends and your family, cousins, whoever, and in hopes that one of them will talk badly about you. And, families have problems. They have their issues. And if they're trying to get back at you for something, that's the time that they're going to remember it, because the social worker is going to manipulate them into thinking that you're doing bad and you're doing wrong, and why else would you be in the system? So, if you are in that case where you're just starting out, it might be a really good idea to just contact as many of your friends and family as possible and explain to them the situation that really happened, and explain to them on the education of what is happening with CPS, that it's not something good, it's not something for the kids, it's, something that's going to tear families apart. And to show this to other people and educate as many people as you can, because like I said, they will ask anyone and everyone in hopes that they will give some kind of dirt about you, because most of the time they don't have anything to go off of. That being said, also, so having a lawyer paid out of pocket versus a private, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart, sorry, a public defender, it is a very big difference. And a lot of times people will tell you that if you really care about your kid, you'll do whatever it takes to get a private attorney. And as we all know, that's not always the case. That's not always possible. And if you're wanting to represent yourself without a public defender, I don't recommend it, but I don't recommend the public defender either. I get this question a lot, and people not realizing that the whole court system they're all in the same bed together. They all sleep together. I mean, it's so unbelievable that, you could talk to your public defender in the hallway and they'll pretend like they're on your side and they're going to help you. And then you get into the courtroom and they put on some stupid little show, and what does this lawyer think? And, what does this lawyer have to say? And what about the child's attorney? And, they don't give a crap what you say. And if you try to tell your public defender what you want, a lot of the times they won't even do it. They won't allow you to do it. Cassandra was just saying on her show that, she tried to file the 388 and the lawyer told her, no, that I'm not going to file that for you. Like, it's just sometimes better maybe to represent yourself if that's the absolute last resort. And if you do that, then you really need to know your homework. Being someone who has been through this like a lot, I can tell you that you're not going to get very far if you don't know what you're doing in there. And they will rip you a new one and make you look like a fool and whatever. And to think that this is like a normal courtroom and like actual laws and you have to abide what these people say, but yet these people are all in on it together. And, eventually you'll see it if you don't already. And if you can't afford an attorney, I mean, I can't either. So I feel you. And you really have to do your homework. But I will say that if there is any possibility of you getting a private attorney, if you have to mortgage your house, if you have to get loans, whatever you have to do, honestly, that is the best thing you could do for your family. As long as you have the right attorney, not just a family law, but a child dependency lawyer. And somebody that you can trust, that, that if you start falling and slipping and, losing hope, that they will be right there to put you right back in the game. So it's important that you really do your homework on that. Let's see my notes here. Let's see. Oh, another thing. Okay, so you guys, it's kind of difficult to say this, but you kind of need to be on your best game, like you're playing a character. The worst thing you could do is be yourself and tell them the truth, which really is horrible, because as a normal human being, you think, well, you know what? I'm going to talk to the caseworker. They want to come to my house. They want to, check it out. And, somebody made a complaint, and sure, I'm going to let them in and I'm going to show them that, look, we have a perfect house and there's nothing wrong. And then they'll just leave us alone. Well, no, that is not the case. If you let them into your home, which I never, ever recommend you do, without an actual warrant that says they're taking the kids, do not let them in. Just don't. You will see how fast they will tell you, or put it in your case file that your house is a mess and you have a whole dirty kitchen because you had 5 dirty dishes in your sink, or a pile of laundry right next to the washer or dryer, and automatically your home is, the worst. And do not tell them anything about your background. It's difficult, because especially if you've been abused before, and they're trying to say, that you're abusing. You just automatically want to be like, no, I was abused. I know what abuse is. This is not abuse. Well, if you say that, they automatically put you in a category and say that, well, if you've been abused, then it's easier for you to be the abuser, which I don't understand. I am the complete opposite. I never wanted to spank my kid ever. She was a little crazy, a little rowdy. And the one time we did try spanking, she sat there and laughed at me. So it doesn't work always. And just don't tell them if you're doing that. You need to be able to discipline your child. If that doesn't work for you, if timeouts don't work and everything else doesn't work, and you find the only thing that does is, a little slap on the behind, or however, you get your discipline done, I think is so much better than not disciplining and then having a real problem on your hands, because these parents are, being told that if you hit your kids at all in any way, shape, or form, that it's abuse. And then they manipulate the kids into saying that it's abuse. And, like, who hits you? Does mommy hit you, or does daddy hit you, when you get in trouble? And, daddy usually does, because that's how they do it in their family. And it's not that they're being abused. It's that when they do get punished, maybe not even that much, when necessary, that, dad's the punisher, and he'll, not beat the crap out of the kids. But there should be, a clear law on that. Because even though the law states that you're allowed to, if you tell the social worker that, you're automatically abusing your kids. So we really need to be careful with that. And going back to what I was saying, you have to represent yourself like you're this perfect family, nothing's going on, past trauma, nope. Your husband and you ever fight? Nope. Even though damn well you have. Doesn't matter, because even if it was 15 years ago, they're still going to use it against you and tell you that you need extra classes and anger management, and now dad has to leave the house because it's not safe for him to be there. And it really destroys families. So I'm just so tired of all of this. I mean, really. And I think the more people that know about what's going on, the better. I think we really need to, use social media while we, since we can, because we never used to be able to, and use it to share as many videos as we can to show people that, look, this is what's happening. This is an epidemic. Yes, there's cases where they need to be abused, but they're not taking those kids. And, show them how the workers are manipulating. Because look at how big the Black Matters rights thing came. I mean, massive, right? So something like that needs to happen for fighting CPS. I hear a lot of people saying that we should not have foster care at all anymore, that it should just be, demolished. And, not all bad foster homes are bad. I have a friend. In fact, I'm going to try to get her on the show. She was a foster mom for a long time, and she, God bless her, she takes the older kids, the kids that they don't want, the kids that aren't looking like they're going to be adopted. So they always send those kids to her, and they're normally older teenagers. So she helps them not only finish being a teenager, but transitioning into being on their own. And she ended up having a whole storage unit full of clothing and refrigerators and microwaves and coffee pots and all kinds of furniture to get these kids set up on their own. And she had so much stuff that she ended up turning it into a thrift store. And she does pretty good. She has really good prices. And, lots of people would rather donate to her store than the Goodwill and all these other places. And I don't blame them. And, her story is kind of messed up because she was foster parenting a lot of kids. And one of them had completed, their program, turned, I think, 20 or 21, and was now officially out of the system. And he had written her a letter saying, thank you so much for everything you've done. I really appreciate everything, and I would never have been able to do it without you, whatever. So she sent him a letter back, saying, I'll always be your foster mom. I'll always be your mom to you. You're a great kid, and you're going to have a great life. And, if you ever need anything, you feel free to reach out to me. Well, somehow that letter got into the hands of CPS, and they dropped her as a foster parent and told her that it was completely inappropriate for her to respond to him like that. Like what? And so it's really sad that when there are good foster parents or good foster homes, they don't like them. They don't last long, and then they stop taking kids. So then the kids end up with these other foster parents who, sorry to say it, but a lot of the times they're really on it for the money. And if not for the money, then because they can't have kids on their own, and they're trying to adopt their own without having to spend, thousands and thousands of dollars at an adoption agency. And to make money off of our children, it disgusts me no matter what. But, the fact that we're still going through all this, I just can't wrap my brain around it. And there's just so many things that, I want to go to the White House and say to them, and, how is this happening? They can't continue to do this, right? But they are. And the fact that, you have to be worried to take your kid to the doctor or take your kid to school because there's a chance CPS will step in, and once that happens, you're screwed. That's not a way of life. That is not the way that we are supposed to be living. It's really just so sad. I mean, just so sad, heartbreaking. It's a good thing to talk to your kids about all this, to let them know and show them things from the internet to prove what you're saying about these caseworkers. I remember when I was a kid, my mom liked to constantly coach us on what to say and not say with CPS. And not only that, but then she would stand by the door and listen and threaten our lives if we said anything that we weren't supposed to. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about teaching your kids on the way CPS manipulates and the things that they say to turn your words into anything, and to teach our kids that they have rights. Whether or not the state or the caseworker or whatever, takes into consideration that, they have rights, they do have rights. And we need to teach these kids that they do not have to talk, and they should not talk. No matter what, unless you're in a horrible situation and it's, legit, and you think it's going to be better to have CPS than not. I can't tell you one case that I know of where it was better to have CPS step in. I just think that, in a normal world, in a perfect world, if you have any kind of problems going on with your family or with your kids, there should be some kind of state worker or some kind of state department that you can go to where they will give you housing, and they'll give you counseling, and they will give you help and, get your family back together. But they don't. They use every single thing against you. They do not help at all. They will turn your life upside down when you're asking for help. And when you're being honest with them and telling them, I used to do drugs 10 years ago and I'm clean now. And if you think that you're saying this, thinking that the, social worker is going to be, okay, well, then that means she's fixed. There's no problems. No, that is not the case. Once you are looked at as a drug addict to them, you will always be. And even though they have a new law now that if, you had a drug crime, I don't know, 15, 20 years prior, they can't use that against you anymore. But they most certainly do. They do. I'm just so appalled by this that I don't even have words for it anymore. Really, because what do you tell someone that's going through this that's going to make them feel better? Nothing, except for, to get their kids back. The fact that we're having to fight for our kids and our families the way we do, it's not fair. It's not fair to say that if you've once been abused, then you are going to be an abuser. I've never heard of that ever being the case. I mean, maybe like with some psychopaths, but usually that's not the case. Also, if you are going through the system, or if they threaten to arrest you, take you into custody because they found some kind of substance, or because you're not cooperating, or whatever the reason might be, and they take you to jail, the jails will play you even worse. If you are locked up, they will tell you that you're not going to get your kids back, that you're going to sit behind bars for a really long time, unless you sign their paperwork, unless you agree to something. With my case, when I first started it, there were no allegations. The police showed up at my house looking for a friend of mine, and long story short, they took me to jail for it. There was a knife on my kitchen counter by the sink, and apparently that's a child endangerment, right? No. But, when you go to court, they make it like so much worse in jail anyways, what I'm talking about. And my public defender in jail, before even talking to me or explaining anything, asked the courts for a restraining order against my daughter, so I couldn't see my daughter. Like, are you kidding me? Like, there's nothing like wrong here. And they were trying to get me to sign before telling me that my mom had made my daughter lie. There was like 30 something allegations, and they didn't tell me any of that until I got out of jail. But they will lie to you, and they will tell you that if you don't sign this admitting to something, then you're going to be screwed. They told me the day before court that my daughter told CPS that Nana made me lie. So the social worker called me the day before court and said, we're dropping everything that your daughter said. It's no longer being held accountable because she admitted Nana made her lie. So the only thing left on there was something that my mother said, the one who told her to lie. And she said that there was domestic violence, which never, ever was the case any point in time. And they told me, if you try to fight that domestic violence, then we're going to bring back all the allegations that were just dropped. Like, how could you do that? But that's what they threatened me with, and they said it'd be a super easy 3-month deal. You'll have your daughter back. You'll have to take a domestic violence class. Not a big deal. But if you don't sign this, we're going to bring back all of those allegations and then some. And they will do that when you're in jail even more. And they will try to keep you in there to scare you and to get you to sign some papers that admit to fault, that admit that, you abused your child. So even though, you want more than anything to get out of jail, it is really worth it to stay in and fight it, because the second you admit that fault, they're going to use it against you, and the chances of you getting your kid back drop a lot. Hopefully you're not going to be in that situation ever, but it's happening more and more. Innocent people are getting arrested left and right for not wanting to give up their children, which, can you blame them? I can't blame them at all. So, I guess we'll wrap it up for today. Let's see if anything else. I think that's it for now. Just everybody, please know what you're doing, know your rights, know what you can and cannot do in court. I can't stress that enough. Regardless of what kind of attorney you have, do your own homework. Don't just rely on them to do it for you, because chances are they won't do what is best for you or your family. If anybody out there listening wants to share your story, I would love to hear it. I would really love to hear if anybody has any comments about what they think the right thing to do in this situation is, how we can fight for our children to not be getting legally kidnapped. And as a community, as a whole, what can we do to fight back? I'd love to hear your guys' answers on that. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap it up since it's Friday night. You guys enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next week. My name is Sabrina, and this is Fight CPS. Have a good night.